Early morning, and the first beams of sunlight begin to illuminate a fascinating world. Within this magical atmosphere, hot air balloons rise into the skies of Cappadocia. On the land, the scenery in the heart of Central Anatolia provides a magnificent impression of untouched landscape with its cleft canyons and mystic rock formations. However, the remoteness of Cappadocia is not quite as untouched as it seems to be. These rocks were once the living quarters of numerous Christian hermits. Although this landscape is mainly known for its rock formations and rock dwellings, it's also worth taking a look at the local vegetation. The natural landmarks of Cappadocia are its fairy chimneys. Huge natural structures and strange tough stone pillars dominate the landscape. The fairy chimneys are one of the most famous natural sights in Turkey. They're to be found in many of Cappadocia's valleys. Bizarrely formed rock cones and steep walls highlight the magical character of this remote landscape. Close to the rocks is all the beauty of blossoming spring flowers. In 1500 AD, the Valley of Monks was a place of refuge for early Christians. Protected by the rock walls, the persecuted Christians found the isolation and tranquility that they required in order that they could live an ascetic way of life. The soft rock of Cappadocia was ideal for their living and storage rooms, tiny chapels, and large rock churches. The ancient and mysterious legacy of the past blends with the primeval charm of the landscape. Here, both culture and nature are as one. The rock valleys hide many reminders of the early Christians who once lived here. Their chapels have withstood the test of time. Although archaeologists and scientists have discovered much about this place, the landscape continues to possess a mystical atmosphere. So the strange rock formations and fairy chimneys of Cappadocia have given rise to many a folktale. Several of the fascinating shapes give the impression that they're surreal beings. The amazing variety of natural forms of the tough rock seem to be without limit. The originality of the landscape and the characteristic rocks have a timeless quality that makes this area a place of peaceful contemplation. The magnificent rock canyons of Cappadocia stimulate the imagination. Here, the forces of erosion have created a natural miracle. Sometimes, the land of the fairy chimneys is like a lunar landscape. It's like being on another planet. Early in the morning, preparations are being made for takeoff. What at first was a holiday trip has now become an exotic adventure. Many such trips take place in Göreme. They commence early in the morning when it's still dark. The town has provided air balloon safaris since 1991. Preparation for takeoff is a routine procedure, but for passengers, the sight of the huge balloons is really something quite special. It takes a while to heat the air, but then as the sun rises, it's time, and the first balloons gradually begin their ascent. The excitement of the passengers increases as they prepare themselves for the journey above the rocky landscape of Cappadocia. Now it's time to enter the basket. Next, it's time for takeoff. Carrying up to 16 passengers, the first hot air balloons rise and travel majestically in the early morning sky. The huge balloons travel together as they rise high into the sky and eventually head off in different directions. Each balloon trip is a unique experience, one full of emotion and unforgettable natural impressions of the wonderful Cappadocian landscape. The skillful pilots steer the balloons to within just a few meters of the rock needles and fairy chimneys, and then climb still higher. Takeoff demands the pilot's full concentration. Then the balloon armada floats in the air past the wonders of nature and the abandoned rock dwellings of the early Christians. From around 50 meters above the Earth's surface, a brand new perspective is revealed of the fantastic rock formations that are set within the primeval landscape below. Soon, passengers are captivated by the experience. The natural beauty of the landscape is like something from a dream. These imaginative creations of erosion were once carved by human hand and transformed into dwellings and small churches. Raised by hot air and steered by air currents, we continue our journey in the hot air balloon across the land of the fairy chimneys. It's without a doubt the most spectacular and thrilling way in which to explore the remote area below. The other balloons remain in view. Our balloon floats serenely through the air. We're traveling above a strange world full of mystique and intriguing rock formations. With favorable weather conditions for several days, dozens of hot air balloons rise up into the air. The many balloons in the sky add to the mystique of the landscape. A marvelous sight. From here, the dwelling caves and rock churches located in the stone below are even more impressive. What a sight! Over time, monastery-like communities settled here. A journey by hot air balloon is the ideal way in which to gain a unique insight into the rock dwellings. Occasionally, the balloon travels close to the rocks. It's a thrilling experience as the pilot steers his passengers safely past the rock barrier. The early Christians of Central Anatolia had good reason to come to this remote area. At that time, Christianity had many enemies. The first Christian hermits came to Cappadocia in the 3rd and 4th centuries AD. Here they found peace, shelter and protection from their enemies. In the course of time, more and more hermits moved to the area around Göreme. Large communities developed along with the larger religious buildings. Thus originated the religious life of the early Christians in Anatolia. In addition to the history of the Christians, it's also the remarkable landscape that fascinates the balloon's passengers. Wind, rain, cold and heat have formed these wonderful, huge natural works of art, and the shaping of the landscape still takes place today. Again and again, the pilots demonstrate their skills. Often they steer their balloons to just a few meters above the ground. The bald, washed out and eroded rocks on the slopes, as well as the vegetation, provide much contrast in the scenery below. Floating above the remote, unspoiled and deserted rock formations is a wonderful experience, as the skies above Göreme become busier. The position of the sun is constantly changing, as is the appearance of the fields of tough stone. The shadow created by the balloon frequently covers the ancient rocks. At the time of the persecution of the Christians, no one thought to search for human settlements in these apparently hostile surroundings. The rocky landscape of Cappadocia seemed to be unsuitable for human habitation. Here, the Christians hid successfully for 300 years. Only a balloon safari can provide a long and lingering view of the marvelous landscape. Floating through the canyons is particularly exciting. Parts of this remote area can only be reached by balloon. The valley of green cottonwood and a treeless, high plateau could not be more contrasting. Contrasting sights underline the charm of this region. Both close-up and distant impressions of the world of Cappadocia's rocks create impression after impression of this fascinating natural world. It was only a matter of time before balloon safaris became the most popular tourist attraction of this region. Passengers are guaranteed to have an unbelievable adventure. From the sky, the landscape takes on a whole new perspective. The diversity of Cappadocia's scenery is truly revealed. Its rocks as well as its dense vegetation. The sight of the mighty rocks makes the nearby trees look almost like cheeky intruders. In earlier times, the surroundings of Ilhara Vadisi were covered by swampland and lakes. As the burner ignites, the hot air balloon gains more height. And as we ascend, our view becomes more and more expansive. Some areas are crowded with rock needles that rise steeply from the ground, whereas others have been spared by erosion and are covered with grass. Primeval rivers cut deeper and deeper into the stone and deep canyons that typify the Cappadocian landscape of today. We frequently encounter other balloons. The wind blows them closer to each other. The pilot watches intently as one of the balloons precariously approaches a rock. Luckily, the pilot of the threatened balloon manages to gain height, and the danger recedes as the landscape once again attracts our attention. Now the sky itself has become a thing of wonder. An entire fleet of hot air balloons is floating gracefully in the sky. Many passengers are overwhelmed by the sight of the scenery below. Again, we approach the remains of the early Christian inhabitants of this region. Their persecution only came to an end with the upsurge of the Byzantine Empire. Christian life in Central Anatolia experienced a significant high season. Right up until the 11th century, churches were carved into the rock. The hot air balloon rises higher and higher into the sky. From here, the mighty rocks look almost fragile. The landscape of Cappadocia is subject to gradual change, slowly but surely, as brand new rock formations are created by the elements. The history of Christianity and its later high season is closely associated with Byzantine rule. There is a total of almost 3,000 rock churches and chapels. The decay of the cave churches began with the downfall of the Byzantine Empire. The Ottomans made sure that the Christians of Central Anatolia could not develop further. In subsequent times, many settlements were abandoned. The rock churches fell into oblivion and remained in the shadows of the fairy chimneys. From the air, there's an extraordinary view of the landscape that captivates with both its history and its beauty. The hot air balloons again mass together as their passengers take a final view of the natural splendor of the Cappadocian landscape. Much of the fertile volcanic soil produces colorful vegetation. Indeed, the first settlers took good advantage of the fertile ground. In around 1600 BC, the Hittites from Asia Minor grew crops close to here. Next, we approach our landing place and our journey is reaching its conclusion. The tranquil town of Göreme is the center of the national park of the same name and is today home to many balloon safaris. Close to the town and its 6,000 inhabitants are some of the most beautiful rock settlements in Cappadocia. A number of the ruins blend with the modern town. One after another, the remaining balloons return to their landing place close to Göreme. Suddenly, a large number of hot air balloons appear. Finally, our balloon approaches the ground. Having lasted some hours, our adventurous and thoroughly enjoyable journey comes to an end. We float close to the ground while our pilot finds a suitable place to land. Our final moments in the air. We land successfully. Several teams of well-rehearsed landing crew attend to the balloons. The balloons collapse and the ground crews fold them together. The passengers are given a warm welcome and the landing is celebrated with a glass of champagne. A happy ending to a breathtaking journey by way of an exciting Cappadocian balloon safari.